Hi, this is Linda Fox with PhocusWire, and I'm with Mieke De Schepper. She's Executive Vice President Online Travel Companies and Managing Director for Amadeus in the Asia Pacific region. Thanks for joining us in the studio.
Yeah, thank you, Linda.
So let's just start. Your role was announced in January with Amadeus.
Yeah.
So just can I ask you what you bring from Expedia to the Amadeus Group?
I think I bring two things. One is really a deep understanding of how an online travel company works. What are some of the challenges? Where are the strengths? And so also where are really the opportunities for somebody like an Amadeus to help and to support and to partner. The other part is really the Asia Pacific region knowledge and expertise. Having been living in Asia Pacific for 14 years in different industries.
Must be fascinating.
And understanding the differences about the different countries, really bring that as well into the team and helping on a global level to understand on how do we bring that all together.
So one thing some of the panelists were asked this morning was super app versus platform, as in who would win. What's your opinion on that?
I'm not sure if I see that much difference between super app and platform. I think a super app is a platform.
Sure, fair point.
I absolutely see that with the move to mobile, it's kind of forced to create an environment that helps to get consumers to convert and get different services in an easier way.
Yep.
And within mobile, just moving to a different app just doesn't work that well. So this is kind of has created the need for bringing that all together in one experience that has smooth connections.
Sure.
And that's really where the mega apps are coming from. So I do see marketplaces being created where you have sets of services. There's also places where consumers are and people are interacting and where you have an opportunity to offer consumers more. And that's kind of like a Facebook or like even a Grab in terms of where people go on a regular basis to offer more services and to basically monetize the audience. So that's really what it's all about. So I think there will be different types of marketplaces. Different consumers have different preferences.
Sure.
And I do believe there still will be a play for dedicated travel players. Yeah, some people are looking for the expertise and want to go deep and really are working with very specialized players. So I think it will all exist. How it will shift is really at the end of the day, it's the consumers who's going to decide.
Right, interesting. So we've seen just in the recent weeks, really, Airbnb investing in Oyo. Then you've got Oyo buying at leisure. Do you sometimes get the impression that it's just a sort of a land grab, a sort of a knee-jerk reaction? We must get into Europe or we must get into Asia. Do you have that impression ever?
I would say that the dynamics are quite different in different parts of the world. And so I see the investments very much to kind of get a first row seats view of seeing what's happening. And so these investments enable an Airbnb to really understand much better on what's happening with Oyo, to understand how can they be a part of it. And this is how many companies, they take a stake in smaller players that are doing really well to kind of piggyback on that growth, but also to learn from it and to see what can we take from that to use on our global brands to help to drive the growth there. So I think it's a very good strategy, not pretending that you can do all the innovation yourself.
Sure.
And it's a smart way to bring in innovation into the company and just to be part of more than what you can just do yourself.
Now you talked about Amadeus' strategy in the region of being a sort of partnership approach, but you also said that you'd sort of not pulled back, that's not the right expression, but you also said that you'd gone to a more global approach.
Yeah.
So despite all your beliefs and explain it.
Yeah, so I think there are different models for different parts of the business. The reason we moved to more a global approach is very much from a solutions approach. With tech development and tech investments, you need to make some choices and prioritize. And to really also use the global scale to be able to make that investment work.
Sure.
I mean, having this is not very sexy, but mid and back office solutions, all the different ones in different parts of the world, it's just not very efficient. So bringing that together and building a platform that works across all the different geographies is a much better way to keep also evolving and keep investing in the solutions. So that works really well for solutions.
Sure.
It also helps to really build deeper understanding on customers. For example, for my segment, the online travel segment, to really understand what are the key challenges of online players in terms of customer acquisition and their choices on technology, so we can build more specific solutions that really support our customer base. Where it still comes together, and you need that local partnership in some markets or really the local teams, is that, well, that makes sense for the broad strokes. There are a lot of local players that are not, they don't fit exactly in that. They're more local than actually global. So overall, there's a trend of more consolidation, more global players, but there are also very strong local players that you also need to service, and they might actually go across different traveler segments. So it's not one size fits all, and I think we've really found a really nice blend between leveraging our global scale, servicing our global customers in a global way, but not forgetting the local players that are really also important for consumers.
So this great comment you made on stage this morning about the one who rules Asia is the one who rules the world.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking, well, you see the sort of scary numbers coming out of Asia about mobile. You see somebody else said something about every 3.5 days a unicorn is born. So, I mean, do the rest of us just give up and go home?
No, but I think you should pay attention to what's happening in Asia Pacific. I think there's some really, really interesting ideas being developed. Not only by the players in China. I think there's some really interesting things happening in Southeast Asia, in Korea and Japan. And these people are starting from much, let's say, smaller markets. I mean, Indonesia is not small.
Sure.
And so what the capability, there's one thing about when you start in a small country, you're going to have to go international. So it doesn't always give you the base skill to really build your business, but it does give you immediately thinking about how do I operate in multiple countries. And our companies starting in Southeast Asia have to think about multi-country approaches from the beginning.
Sure.
And let's say I see the difference between companies that have a headquarter with a huge domestic market, like in the US or in China.
Yeah, you were saying how difficult that was to then sort of try and be local in other places culturally.
And you see that for the American companies and the Chinese companies.
Right.
Because you have such a big, huge domestic market that will always be your biggest profit pool. So investments naturally get sucked into that direction. And it is hard for a Chinese engineer to understand really how consumers operate and interact on the other side of the world, as it is for an American engineer to understand how it works in Japan. And so, because that big base just naturally gets the gravitation towards one type of let's say, traveler or customer and adapts itself to the local needs there. And it's a big market. It's a really worthwhile investment. But I've seen it's hard to really balance that once you have that big dominant markets.
Sure. So just a kind of final question, a company like Alipay and it doesn't make any kind of bones about its, global ambitions. And in your position and everything you've observed in the APAC market so far in your career, is that just talk, or is there, because it is an ecosystem already and its approach is very different. So, No,
it's not just talk.
No.
No, I mean, they are absolutely going for world's, I would say domination, but for a global presence, and they believe they can serve customers all around the world. And so I think very much you see the Chinese companies really initially serving Chinese customers outside or that are traveling outside.
Call centres in Scotland.
But there's also, you see different ways approaching. I think C-Trip's approach with the investments done and some of the international companies is a great way where they're learning what works and doesn't work in these different markets. I think some of the players have done also different strategies. They've tried things. And I would say one of the things I see across the Asian players is a great ability to test and learn and to just try something and then agree, it doesn't work, let's try something different. I also see much more openness to partner with us, partner with others in terms of saying, okay, you've got an interesting there, let's go and try it. There is less of a, not complete, but there's a less of sometimes like, we want to do it all ourselves. And that's great for us to partner with.
Great, Mieke, thank you. Thanks again for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.